feels weird not to talk about this, given that we've discussed Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super in the past numerous times. But this past week, the great Akira Toriyama, creator of Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, Dr. Slump, Sand, Land, the character designer for Dragon Quest, and inspiration to many.
Chrono Trigger as well.
That's
what that was.
Had passed away, and I, like many people our age, was very caught off guard, and I'm still not fully sure that I've processed it all the way, because that man was such a instrumental part in my childhood and the enjoyment in my childhood. And we talked about Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2, which was my first home console game ever, and I played the shit out of that game, and I had Dragon Ball Z t-shirts, and I would stay up to watch Toonami, and it feels like the first celebrity death in a very long time that seems to have this big of a wave, but specifically with people our age or a little bit older. Obviously, Matthew Perry passing away was a huge hit to folks who grew up in the early 90s and was watching Friends, and Stan Lee affected a lot of people because there were folks that read his comics growing up, and then there are folks like us who watched movies based on his comics and saw all his cameos. But for Akira Toriyama, it's crazy because, the dude rarely showed his face. He was very private, but he still affected a lot of people's lives. So, yeah, I just want to talk about Dragon Ball for a second, because you only recently got into Dragon Ball, I would say, in the grand scheme of things. I feel like it hasn't been too long for you.
God, what was it, like 2019, maybe?
Yeah.
I think is when I started, so.
I think it was around the time you started dating Haley. Because I remember we were driving back from something. I forgot what movie we saw, but there was a conversation that we had. You were still in the Lyle apartment, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And we were coming back from something, and you asked me where the best place to start would be if you wanted to get into Dragon Ball. And I think we talked about watching Broly and then as a starting point and seeing if you even like it, because Broly is kind of a whole package deal as far as what Dragon Ball offers. But also it's a good anime movie. It's a good Dragon Ball movie.
Yeah, might as well start from the best.
Right, and then it's all downhill from there. But yeah, and myself and our friend Josh Lopez, shout out Josh, we were both really into Dragon Ball for a very long time, and then even more friends that we made as we got older were also into Dragon Ball. So I'm sure for you there must have been a desire to share that with us, I don't know why you wanted to watch Dragon Ball.
It's because I was the only one who didn't. Literally the only one who didn't.
Yeah. So what was the first thing that you watched? Was it Broly?
It was Broly.
Yeah.
Besides all the random clips that Josh would show me over the years with like Krillin exploding and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the first full actual real thing I watched.
Yeah. And it was good enough. It was good enough to keep you going.
Mm-hmm.
And then we both downloaded Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle, which to this day is...
I just hit my 1300th day in a row playing.
That's crazy.
Which is like 3.5 years.
Yeah. And the fact that both of us... It's crazy to think that Dragon Ball it's become a part of my everyday life. Which it sounds silly to say, but even just logging into that game every day and seeing Goku and all of these characters that I've grown to love over the past however many, like 15 or 16 years that I've been a fan of this series, it just hits really hard. And when you think about the influence that this guy had on not only anime but pop culture as a whole, I can't tell you how many highlight reels I've seen of professional athletes, instead of like a victory dance, they'll do the fusion dance with another teammate, or they'll do a kamehameha, or they'll like do the instant transmission pose. And going Super Saiyan and forms like that, it's so crazy to think how many artists were influenced by Goku going Super Saiyan for the first time, that now in almost any anime you see, in a lot of like Sonic the Hedgehog apparently was based almost directly on Goku. Like Goku and Krillin were very much an inspiration for Sonic and Tails, and Silver was literally like the creator of Silver the Hedgehog was like, no, think Trunks from Dragon Ball. And it was like time traveling, silver haired, Supersonic. Like, we can't ignore,
Yeah. 7 Chaos Emeralds.
7 Dragon Balls, Shadow being the Vegeta and then becoming an ally later on. It's like, I know I'm only talking about Sonic the Hedgehog, but you could type into YouTube right now Dragon Ball Z references in other media and shows.
There was a whole panel of just direct homages to the Yamcha death on the ground.
Yeah. There's also a lot of Dragon Ball references in music, specifically like hip hop uses a lot of, artists will write a lot of lines that reference like Kaioken or Super Saiyan or instant transmission or Krillin or Senzu Bean. Like, I don't know, man. There's just so many artists who have Akira Toriyama to thank almost entirely for the reason why they're into art and they're into creating. And I know a lot of people who are also like, Dragon Ball Z saved my life, and Goku and Gohan inspired me to be a better person and study and train my mind and my body. And there are like professional bodybuilders and people who started working out because Goku, they wanted a physique like Goku, and it was, oh man, it's just so cool. It's so cool to see. And I remember the first year that they had the Goku float in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Every year since that he's been a part of the parade, I get like weirdly emotional, because it feels like such a full circle moment for myself and a lot of anime fans who grew up getting bullied for shit like that, and now it's just so much more widespread and mainstream, and it's just dope. And if it wasn't for Akira Toriyama and Dragon Ball, I don't think we'd be here. I mean, like, I would have been born, but
Yeah.
It's just weird knowing that anything that comes out Dragon Ball wise now, he's gonna be gone for the release of. So, yeah, man, just if you haven't watched Dragon Ball, I highly recommend it as an entry point anime. It's so good, and I'm sure there are lots of friends that you have that like Dragon Ball, so they can help you out. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about Toriyama Sensei. Not that he was my sensei, but everyone calls him Toriyama Sensei. Remember when all of Twitter was just Toriyama stuff?
Yeah. It was like the whole 2 days.
Yeah.
Probably still is. Well, that's like Oscar stuff, but
right.